Welcome back. Mr. Kasuri, over to you for the final round. If you were still the foreign minister of Pakistan facing the prospect of political chaos in Kabul after the recent presidential elections, in policy terms, what would be some of the immediate steps that you would like to recommend to your prime minister and to the president?
Well, if I were foreign minister, I'd lay a lot of emphasis on what we had started, which was jirga on both sides. Now, our idea of jirga at that time, I must be very honest, was, same tribes straddling both sides of the international border, getting them together. But by the time we finished with that, the Afghans found it difficult, and they said there should be a national jirga. Ultimately, it really boiled down to a Pashtun jirga. There was a sprinkling of some Sindhis and Punjabis, but basically there was one in Peshawar, in Kabul, followed by one in Islamabad. We need to, and then we had suggested, and that was followed in our tenure. We suggested the first one was too big. We suggested a smaller jirga of 50, and I think it's very important that this time we include representatives of tribes on both sides, same tribes. They should also be included in that jirga, because without that cooperation, I do not see how cross-border movement can stop. So there has to be a much greater emphasis on people-to-people contact, and that is the best guarantee against what can go wrong in Kabul. Though, of course, if something does radically go wrong in Kabul, it will have ramifications on our border areas.
Some pertinent points. Just over to General Talat Masood for the final round and final comments. Crisis in Kabul, if indeed it does happen, there are various scenarios which are being put across. One is the worst case scenario, of course, being President Karzai and Dr. Abdullah failing to reconcile with each other, and that failure leading to open hostility, whatever state it takes. There are also suggestions of creating a new position of a chief executive for Dr. Abdullah, almost an empowered position of a vice president, somebody who would oversee at least day-to-day, part of the day-to-day functions of the government while President Karzai stays in power. But from our point of view, what is it that we should do in terms of steps forward other than what we've done so far?
Well, I think what we have been saying, at least in the recent past, that we are not interested in any one individual. We are not interested in any one party. We are interested in the stability of Afghanistan. I think we should follow that in letter and spirit, because my own view is that the stability of Afghanistan is far more important to us than the winning of any individual or any group. So I think that is foremost, because the whole geostrategic importance of Pakistan depends on the stability of Afghanistan. Otherwise, the whole of Central Asia and the rest is blocked. On one side, you have India, which is blocking you because your relationship with them is still in a Cold War state. On the other hand, if there is such instability in Afghanistan as has been, then Pakistan truly becomes landlocked in a way. So we have, apart from the fact that we have a sea, but that aside, we do not take any advantage of our geography.
Landlocked in a political sense.
Political sense, and also in the economic sense. You cannot really trade to the extent that you would like to and sort of open up. So, and Iran also, there is a problem. So I think we have an excellent potential, but that potential can only be harnessed provided there is stability in Afghanistan. So we have to really work in our own interest to have stability in Afghanistan.
A very big policy imperative. This brings me to the end of this discussion. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Mr. Kasuri in Lahore, thank you very much for joining us in this program. General Talat Masood, always a pleasure to have you on this show. Brings me to the end of this discussion this week. Center Point, it reminds me of some of my childhood memories, times before the Soviet occupation, that friends, family members spoke of freely traveling by road from Peshawar to Kabul. Driving up to Kabul, it was considered the most economical way to have an offshore overseas vacation. Given how circumstances stand today and the events of the last 30 years since the Soviet occupation, things may not return to that state of normalcy for a very long time, but this doesn't change the fundamental reality that Afghanistan remains very central to Pakistan's foreign policy interest. And as General Talat Masood pointed out, Pakistan will remain politically landlocked even if we have the reality of having a long seashore, politically landlocked if we have tense relations all around. And therefore, to overcome that danger of being politically landlocked, improving relations with Afghanistan is a big necessity. Brings me to the end of this week's Center Point. If you care to write to us on this discussion or any other discussion, feel free to use our email address. It's centerpoint@dawnnews.tv. I'm Farhan Bukhari in Islamabad. Till next week, goodbye.